Okay, when you're using SketchUp, choose Template and choose Architectural Design Millimeters. I think it's the fourth one down. Yes. And then click on the bottom where it says Start Using SketchUp. Okay, this is what it usually looks like when you start, but I'm going to teach you how to make the user interface a little bit more helpful. So go to View, Toolbars, turn off Getting Started, and turn on Large Toolset. Also, scroll down to the bottom, turn on Warehouse, Views, and Styles, and press Close. Now, sometimes these come in on a couple different lines, like so. And if it is like that, I generally grab the views and put them there, the styles, put them there, and the warehouse on the right hand side. Instructor window under Windows, and when you select a tool, it gives you a quick demonstration and a little bit of information about how to use that tool. So I definitely recommend trying that out. For example, if I click on the rectangle tool, it says click to set the first corner, move the cursor diagonally, click to set the second corner, or escape to cancel the operation. I'm going to close this window because it'll get in our way. And I'm just going to click once, move diagonally, but now I'm not actually going to click the second time. Instead, I'm going to type 500, 500. And you'll notice in the bottom right corner that as long as I don't move my mouse, those are the numbers. If I move my mouse, those numbers disappear again. So it's important that you don't accidentally knock your mouse when you're typing. So 500, 500, enter finishes the operation, and I have a 500 by 500 millimeter square. Now I'm going to get what's called the push-pull tool and click and drag up. And I'm looking at the bottom right corner, it's about 900 millimeters, so I'm actually going to type in 900, enter, make it a nice round number. Okay, at the moment, this would be our pedestal, and I want to make that into one object. So I triple click it, 1, 2, 3, edit, make group. Now I can draw things on top of that, and they won't glue it themselves to it. So if I do a square there that was 300, 300, enter, and then extruded it by 100, enter, and if I triple clicked it, it only selects that object. So I could move that, and I could even move it off of the object, so it's separate from the pedestal. Okay, so let's actually leave that, and I'm going to make that into a group as well. Make group. Now, it's a bit difficult to line things up from a perspective viewpoint, so here's what I recommend learning how to do right away, and that is changing your camera view to a parallel projection instead of perspective. And this is to temporarily align things. Now I'm going to go to a top view. Grab my move tool. Now, the instinct is to touch the object that you're moving. But I think it's good to get into the habit of selecting your object first with the select tool, getting the move tool, and then clicking out here somewhere once, and then moving around until you've moved it where you want it to be. Now, it's a bit difficult to snap it into position, so I might zoom in a bit, give me a bit more control. I'm going to go to a front view. That looks good. And I can go to a 3/4 view. Okay. The other reason I like to go into a parallel projection is it makes it easier to draw shapes. So let's try drawing a shape. I'll get the 2-point arc tool. We'll draw a point there, a point there, and now bend the arc in that way. And now bend it out. Let's bend it out that way. And finally, let's use a straight line for this one. Click, click. Okay, now at the moment, I've made a two-dimensional shape. And if I hold down the middle mouse button, I can see that it's a very thin piece of paper. Okay, to make it 3D, I would use the push-pull tool again. But before I do that, I want to show you something. And that is that those two curves are actually made up of straight line segments. Okay, so if we zoom in, I don't know if you can see, but these are actually straight lines. So if you're doing curves and you want them to look more smooth, what I recommend doing is opening the window called Entity Info. And I generally like to keep it in the right hand side like that. Click on the Select tool, click on one of the curves, and you can see that it's made of 12 segments. Depending on how big the curve is, I like to either double it or even make it larger than that, triple it. I'll double it, see what the effect is. So instead of 12, we'll type in 24, enter. And if it's smooth enough, don't go any higher, because the higher that number is, the more memory it takes in your computer, which means eventually it will cause the computer to crash if you have too many high resolution curves. Let's do the same with this one. 24, enter. And we don't need to do anything with a straight line because it's already a straight line. I'm going to leave that window open because we'll use that quite a bit. Go to a 3D view just by pressing the middle mouse wheel. And now get my push-pull tool and push it out, and let's type in 50, enter. Okay, right away I want to turn this into one object, because if I don't, for example, if I grabbed a move tool and touched the front surface, clicked it, and then moved it, you can see it's not moving the whole object, it's only moving the front surface. So let's triple click that, say Edit, Group. Now let's get the move tool. And here's another example where I might go to a side view, and rather than clicking on the object, I'll just click on the side there and move it so it's centered over the pedestal. Go to a front view, maybe move it a bit like that. Okay, here's how to make a sphere. Draw a circle, trying to keep that line horizontal. Grab your selection tool, click on the circle, again Entity Info, segments, boost it up to a higher number, not too high or else the computer might crash. Then get a pencil tool, find the center, go up to there, and go down to the bottom as well. Get the rubber tool, erase the left half. Get your circle tool a second time, go to a 3D view, and looking at the bottom, when your pencil is on the inside, the circle goes green, and that means it's going to draw on the surface of the original circle, or which is now semicircle. If you move to the left, outside of the semicircle, your circle goes blue, and that means I can start drawing, and it doesn't need to be too big. And now I'm going to grab my selection tool, grab the circle, change that to 48 as well. And it's already selected, so I can click on the Follow Me tool. But if it's not selected, because I've just drawn it, use your selection tool, select the circle, select your Follow Me tool, and click on the semicircle. Now I should be able to delete the original circle. And there's my circle. However, it's gone shaded, which means it's actually inside out. So I'm just going to click on it with the right mouse button and say Reverse Faces. And that will fix when you ever get sort of a slate blue shaded surfaces. Right-clicking them, Reverse Faces, usually fixes it. And I'm going to just grab that and say Edit, Make Group. And now it will be a separate entity. resizing objects is really easy. So, get your selection tool, select the object you want to resize, and go to Tools, and the button we're looking for is called Scale, but you'll also notice the shortcuts are on the right hand side. So if I just press the letter S, it should work. So click on it, press S, and now if I want it to remain the same proportions, grab the corner. But if I want to squish it in any way, use one of the other buttons. So this would looks a bit like an M&M or a Smartie. I think I do want to keep it a sphere, so I'll grab the corner there, do that, and now I'm going to go to my front view, start aligning. Let's put it right there. Now let's go to a side view. And I don't click on objects to move them. I make sure the object is selected, and I get my move tool, and I click somewhere out here where I can actually see what I'm doing, and then I move, click again. I can zoom in, move it out, and then gradually place it in more accurately. Rotating an object is relatively easy. I'm going to use the select tool, select this crescent, and grab the rotate tool, and depending on what surface I'm resting on will determine what the axis of rotation is. So if it goes blue, the axis of rotation will be the Z axis, and if I get close to the object, click once, extend, and then rotate it. You'll see how that works. Control Z will undo that. If I were to go on to the surface of this object here, which happens to be lined up with the y-axis, which is green, click, go like that. You can see how that works. But what if you want to go not on an x or y axis or z axis? Well, this sphere happens to have a lot of faces facing in all different directions. If I clicked on one that doesn't go green, red, or blue, then it's not lined up with the X, Y, or Z axes. Click once, click again over here, and then you can see I'm actually rotating on an awkward axis. Now I'm actually going to do this on purpose and go all the way down to about there, and I'm going to do the same thing right about there. Click once out here, but before I do it, I'm going to press the control button, and it adds a little plus. If you could see it next to the rotate tool. Okay, I'll show you what that does. It's dragging a copy. So I'm going to do that, click again, and before I move my mouse much, I'm going to press the X button, which is the symbol for multiplication, so X, and I'm going to press 4, enter. So let's demonstrate that one more time and show you how it works. Let's just make a little cuboid. 200, 200, enter. Let's push it up 200, enter. Let's triple click it, turn it into a group, get the move tool, move it, but press Control, and now press X9, enter, and it made 9 copies. So let's try that with the rotate tool. Click on it, rotate. Let's rotate from way out here. Click once, press the Control button once, you see a little plus. Click one more time there, rotate. Click one more time, press X4, enter, and it made 4 copies. Okay. Now, as it is a bit of an experimental way to create something, I think was actually quite lucky on the angle I chose. What determines the success of this is how many you choose. Sometimes too many is not a good thing. And also the original center of rotation, where it is, how far away it is from the object you're rotating, and the angle. The fact that I had a sphere there meant that I could experiment with the angle of rotation on a skewed angle, not lined up with the X, Y, or Z axis. So I think I was a bit lucky there, to be honest. I'm pleased with that. Okay. At this stage, you might like to see what it looks like in perspective. Camera, perspective, eye level, as opposed to looking down on it from a bird's eye view, because this is when we start to appreciate what the object might look like in real life. Okay. We can also start to turn off certain features, for example, view, and turn off edges, and sometimes I also turn off view, edge style, and I also turn off profiles sometimes, especially when you start to add color, if you decide to add color.